What's up, everyone? We're going to get started here in a couple minutes. I'm going to let a couple people filter in here, so hopefully everybody's having a good Wednesday. Drop a one in the chat if you're having, or a smiley face or something like that if you're having a great start to the week. Last full week of the month in sales. Hopefully everybody's seeing some success. If not, there's still an opportunity to win. So one thing about me, you guys hear me okay? Everything audio's good? Someone just put a one in or something like that in the chat. Awesome. Beautiful. Where's everybody joining in from? I'm sure some of you guys are in the car, so I don't take any responsibility or liability if you guys. Bozeman. Nice. It's beautiful. I lived in Great Falls for a little bit out there. Missoula is one of my favorite spots out there. Seattle, North Carolina. Awesome. Miami. Okay. Great. So we're going to get started here probably at 12:05 because we have a number of attendees, I'm sure, that are showing up a few minutes late. They're trying to get settled in a spot. So I'm going to be talking about the sales management system. It's a talk I've given a number of times across the country. So if you guys have been to a certain TEAT event and heard me deliver this message, I love it. I think it's one of the best messages that we've put together. I think it's the best or the biggest opportunity in the contracting space, if I'm being honest. You have sales leaders who really don't have any training, or you have owners playing the de facto sales manager. So I'm going to outline some stuff for you guys today, and I'm going to share some content. There'll be a QR code. You can take a picture of it. There's going to be some resources you guys can download. So it's going to be an action-packed hour. So we're going to move through some stuff pretty quickly, but I will drive engagement because that's just how I am. I feel weird just as a talking head. I want it to be a dialogue as much as it can. And not a monologue, me just up here talking. So hopefully this is valuable. You guys will get at least one actionable item that you can take and implement in your business today. That's my goal. When I give a presentation in person, I talk about, um, I have the crowd repeat, the only thing I know is that I don't know. And why I do that is because some of you have been on this earth longer than me. Some of you have been in the contracting space longer than me. But if I can give you one piece of valuable information that changes the course of your business or your personnel or your sales team or your company or you personally, I think I've done my job. Would you guys say I've done my job if I can give you one piece of valuable information? Put a one in the chat if you feel like that would be a valuable webinar of attending. All right, James. James is all in. Alyssa, Bryson, Keel, Jerry. Okay. So let's get started here. I'm going to share my screen and we can kind of kick this off. Give me 1 second. Come on, slideshow. What is going on? There we go. Nothing like technology, right? Okay. So let me share my screen and we can get going here. Can everyone see my screen? Put a one in the chat if you guys can see my screen, just because I want to make sure we're all on the same page. Okay, we're good to go. All right, so let's get started. So the sales management system, the glass ceiling, let's shatter it, right? So making 30 to 100% year-over-year growth inevitable. How do we do that, right? What does that even look like? What is the sales management system even about? So a little background on me. Um, so I grew up in South Florida on the East Coast. Anybody? So I saw a couple Miamis in there. Went to high school in Fort Lauderdale. Played baseball for my whole life. So I went to University of Arkansas, and then I got drafted by the Chicago White Sox. I grew up in a third generation carpet wood floor tile business. So it's still around. It's in Boca Raton. So from the time I was little, the time I could talk, my grandpa would be in the warehouse or he would be, with another customer, and then a wood or tile rep would come in, and I would have to learn how to communicate. So, for you guys in communication, I think it's the most valuable skill set that you guys can develop. And I think for the younger generation, it's something that is a lost art. And I see people being so connected in their phone and the attention span being so short. I had to learn to communicate at 5 years old from the time I could talk. I had to learn how to find a commonality with a rep or with somebody that would come in, a customer, and I had to connect with them. So I believe that we're all in sales, right? I sold myself on what shirt to wear, on this, brand of water to drink. So we're all in sales, but sales sometimes has a negative connotation, right? So I'm going to share with you guys what true sales leadership looks like versus sales management. So when I was playing baseball, I had surgery, and what comes with surgery, right? They prescribe you some stuff. So this was my beautiful yearbook picture with Springdale Police Department. 2018, got arrested, possession with intent to distribute. Was I a bad person? No. That's what talent looks like with no structure, right? With no coach, no cadence. I got addicted to painkillers, ended up being homeless, lost everything that I had. And so sales has been a vehicle for change, right? You guys know you don't have to have a GED, you don't have to have a college education. You can make an uncapped amount of revenue. So I think sales is the most beautiful thing that we can do. And all it is communication. Okay, so let's dive into what the structure of what we're going to talk about here. So we're going to talk about revenue roller coaster and glass ceilings, facts and stats. So we've been at Sales Transformation Group around since 2018, and we've traveled the country and we've worked with over 1,000 contractors. So we've grabbed a ton of data, we've tracked a ton of metrics, and I'm going to share some of that with you as we've came on site. We've been a change agent in some of these companies. We've driven adoption and accountability, and we've raised the standard at these companies that we work with. I'm going to compare and contrast what a sales leader versus a sales manager look like, which I think are two distinct, different personas. I'm going to talk about our sales management system and what that looks like. I'll drop that in the chat so you guys have a chance to go over the scorecard. If you guys have spoke or have heard me spoke, you guys will know what I'm talking about. It is a plan. You can literally gap yourself and have a report and say, I know exactly what I need to work on in my company today. And then how do we get this outcome? How do we have an autonomous company where people feel empowered? They're going out, they're held accountable, but they're also holding other people accountable. You're bringing people into a system. You can train them from just potential to self-sufficiency, and they're finding success. And then now you're retaining a bunch of people in your company, and you're not hiring 10 to keep two. You're hiring five and keeping five, or whatever that may be. Right. And then we'll talk about the sales team dynamics. I'll share some case studies with you guys, and then I'll provide some tools and resources. Okay, so let's jump right in. If you guys are able to take notes, great. If you guys have questions, I'll give a few minutes to share a few questions that you guys might have. Obviously, we'll send you the recording of the webinar, and if you guys opt into the QR code, we'll share a bunch of resources with you guys. So let's dive in. All right, so this might be you. Sales feels like a revenue roller coaster, right? Look at this little kid. How many of you guys feel or felt like 2025 you were this little kid in business? Put a one in the chat. Or an exclamation point or something where you're like, yeah, this was me in 2025. This was our company in 2025. It was a little uncertain, right? Asa, Alex, absolutely. Alyssa, it was tough, right? It was tough. There was higher material prices or the economy, or people were kind of clutching their pearls in their pocketbook, and they weren't spending as much money, right? The priority of getting something done in their home wasn't at the top of their list. But at the end of the day, all of the services that you guys provide is it's a need. It's not a want, right? It's a need. They need a new HVAC system. They need a new plumbing. They need a new electrical system. They need to get their house painted. And if they're trying to sell it or if they're trying to increase the value, they need to protect their biggest investment. If you're a roofing contractor, if there was a storm, right, they need your services. So I want you to think about this as you're going in your day to day, that people need you, right? You are a vital piece to the puzzle, and then in them ensuring that they have a safe home, that they have a beautiful home, right? So another one of these things that you guys might experience is you're unable to level up the existing sales team. How many of you have dealt with that? I've dealt with this, right? In my experience in running a team, I've dealt with, having people that were successful in other roles. I brought them in, and then they weren't able to find success when I was running a team. Well, why is that, right? Well, there's a couple different reasons. One of them, you might not be communicating with the team in a way in which they understand, right? You're missing each other, and the team or the person that you're talking to, you being in leadership, you're not listening in a way in which they feel heard. So that is going to keep you from leveling up that sales team. You guys are going to miss each other. I see it all the time. People are beating their head against the wall and they're like, I can't get this guy, I can't get this girl to be successful. I can do it as the leader, as the owner, but they can't do it. Why? Because you guys are missing each other. Okay. Let's look at another one. You have a revolving door of salespeople. I talked about this earlier, right? When I first came into the contracting space, again, after my journey through life, I heard this kind of adage or cliche mantra that you had to hire 10 to keep two, right? So, how many of you guys have dealt with a revolving door of salespeople? Put a one in the chat if you're like, yeah, we hired this person, they were here for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 days or whatever, and they're not here. Anybody dealt with that? Yep, John, absolutely. Anybody else dealt with a revolving door of salespeople? It is a common problem. It's one of the most common problems that I hear. Hey, we find a person, we don't know if they're a right fit. We don't really have an ironclad training system, and then they don't see success, so then they leave. Okay. Let's look at the next one. You're still carrying a heavy sales load, right? Put a one in the chat or an exclamation point or a frustration face if you're an owner or a sales leader or you're still carrying the heavy sales load because the sales team isn't picking up the slack. Rod, yeah, this is another problem that I see every single day in the frustrations in talking and traveling the country. I travel probably 2 to 4 times a month during the busy season when I travel across the country and I speak and I go do on-site training. It is a major, major issue that we need to solve for, and I'm going to show you how to do that. So here's the reality. You know there's more potential in you. You just haven't found it yet. You haven't broken through that glass ceiling. So I want to talk to you about what that looks like to do so. Okay. So here's the problem, right? Just like the picture I showed you, it's not a personnel problem. The true root cause is you have a broken or underdeveloped system and it's costing you at least six figures, right? But probably seven figures when you quantify it out and look at all the time and money invested that didn't come to fruition, right? So I'm going to outline some stuff here and talk about facts and stats from us traveling and dealing with contractors, and we track a ton of metrics. And it's pretty alarming, but I think it's useful for you guys to know that if you're dealing with this, you're not alone. Okay, so the first one, 70%, according to our partner that we use, Objective Management Group. So we test every single company that we work with collectively as a group, but individually as salespeople, as owners in leadership, we're testing you to figure out what your competencies are. Because when we train, our training is hyper focused on your company specifically because you have a different makeup, you have a different model, you're in a different market, right? So every company is unique. So 70% of the sales managers we tested never received formal sales leader training or formal sales manager training. I'm interested, the people, the attendees that are here, how many of you have actually had formalized sales management training? Put a one in the chat if you had. So James has, okay. And it can look like a couple different, uh, there's a couple different avenues and real formalized training, right? So the company has a system, right, of how do we recruit? How do we hold people accountable? How do we do a pipeline review? How are we coaching and teaching the sales process? How are we running a sales meeting? All of these things, that is a sales management system. How are we doing a ride along, right? How are we communicating with the homeowner from initial contact to post-sale follow-up? All of these things are important. All of these play a factor in the sales management system that you do or do not have. Okay. And another one, another alarming stat that we've gathered through our OMG partner is 55% of all salespeople lack basic sales skills. So over half the people that we test have zero basic sales skills. So put in the chat what you believe to be a basic sales skill that is going to help you or help your team be successful in their role as a salesperson. I told you I like to drive engagement. So let's see what we got. The only wrong answer is the one you don't give. A selling course. That's a basic sales skill. Okay, Jerry, I'm trying to understand. So So maybe like a sales training. I'm thinking more like so like asking questions, right? That's a basic sales skill people need to have, right? What's another one? Being able to adapt to different personalities. Yes, listening, emotional. Oh, Danielle, beautiful. Emotional intelligence, so important. There's a great book um, called Sales EQ. It's specifically about emotional intelligence. IQ is basically what you're kind of born with. Can you grow it a little bit? Can you develop it? Yes, but emotional intelligence, most people are not born with it. It is a bred skill. Communicating effectively, absolutely. If you are not communicating with the homeowner and there is sales resistance and you're selling into that, the percentage or the likelihood of you closing that deal goes down immensely. How to close? Absolutely, Rod. Ask for the sale. You know how many times I go into companies or I talk to salespeople and we'll role play and they don't ever ask for the order. They don't ever ask for the sale. They do all of this, going through, presenting, asking questions, and they never ask for the sale. Asking the hard questions, 100%, Danielle, that's a great one, right? If I would rather have a need to be respected versus a need to be liked, because if I have a need to be liked, I'm not going to ask the tough questions. I'm going to shy away from that. And then, am I really doing the prospect a service? No, I'm doing them a disservice because I'm not asking the tough questions. Hey, where does this project fall in your list of priorities, right? Maybe it's the bathroom, maybe it's the car, maybe it's the daughter needs to go to college. I need to know so I can hyper focus my sales process and my presentation. Or should I even go through the presentation, right? I have to ask the hard question. We have to find a compelling reason. So all of these things are so important in looking at what salespeople need to be doing consistently throughout the process. Okay, and then 28% of all salespeople that we tested lack basic sales, or sorry, are expected to hit their quota. 28% of people we tested last year were expected to hit their quota. Okay, so why is that? Well, when pressure happens, people revert back to the training. You don't rise to the occasion, you fall to the level of your preparation. So if they are not prepared, they're going to fall to whatever bad habits they have. So take the time now to put together some sort of training, and that's why you guys are here to learn and grow and hopefully share this information with your team. One thing that I can give you guys to implement tomorrow. Okay, so all of these things are super important and something that we found in traveling across the country. Okay, so this is the reality. Untrained managers equal inconsistent reps equal unpredictable revenue. Would you guys agree with that? Put a one in the chat if you guys agree with that. Untrained managers equal inconsistent reps equal unpredictable revenue. Totally agree. Absolutely. 100%. Without a doubt, right? If you don't have a system, whose system do you fall victim to? If you're a manager, if you're an owner and you don't have a system, whose system do you fall victim to? The prospects, right? You fall victim to the prospects, or you fall victim to your salesperson's process or lack thereof. So there's this chaos going on. So I need to have a unified message in the way in which I coach my team, the way in which we communicate with prospects. All of this is so important. Okay. And then here's another quote. Winging it works at 2 million, right? And maybe even 3 million. Maybe you might get to 4. You have a storm or something, or you had a really good year, but systems are mandatory at 10. I have yet to meet an 8-figure contractor that doesn't have some semblance of a system. Okay. And here's the true test. Can you get to that mark? Can you get to 10 million? And then can you stay there? Not can I get there and then I revert back and now we do 6 and then I get to 10 almost by accident and then we go back to 5 or whatever like that. Can I repeat it year after year after year? I think is so important. So anybody know who that is? The gold standard, right? Nick Saban. One of my favorite quotes. High achievers, the standard is a standard. Mediocre people cannot stand high achievers, and high achievers do not like mediocre people. Would you guys agree? I would agree. I can't stand negativity. I cannot stand excuses. So you either have one of my favorite things to say, a former VP of sales that I worked with or worked under said, you either have results or you have reasons. Okay. And the underperforming or the mediocre people are always going to make excuses. So when I played baseball at University of Arkansas, Nick Saban would come in. Luckily, I didn't play football. He would come in and he'd wipe the floor with us, right? So I got a chance to kind of uncover or do some due diligence and learn more about Nick Saban. And he said a quote one time that was super interesting. I found out, and I always saw Nick Saban yelling at everybody. yelling and coaching really hard and in his players' ears and doing all this stuff. And I'm like, wow, that's interesting. He's always yelling. He's always screaming at them. And so I found out that he only yells at his team or coaches them in that way when they're winning, because you're more receptive to constructive criticism when you're winning. If you ever notice when they're losing, he's in their ear, he's encouraging them, he's giving a pat on the butt because people don't need to be reminded they suck when they are sucking. They know that. Trust me, you don't state the underperformance. They know that they're failing. They know they're not performing up to the standard that they have for themselves or that you have for them as a business owner, as a sales leader. So do not remind them of their underperformance. If they are winning, that is the time to coach them a little bit harder. But the reality is each individual person is coached differently. They have different ways that they perceive information. So we need to really, really understand where each individual sales rep is so we can coach them correctly. Okay. Another one. There are no bad teams, only bad leaders. Would you guys agree with that? Would you guys agree with that? Whatever the excuse or whatever the reason or whatever it is, if you're a leader, it's ultimately on you. Put a one in the chat if you agree. There's no bad teams, only bad leaders. Jocko Willink travels around the country, echelon front. If you know anything about him, task force bruiser, Ramadi, Iraq. Okay, one of the most disciplined, actually, his book's called Discipline Equals Freedom. He has another great one called Extreme Ownership, talking about you as a leader are owning everything in every situation. And then he has another one that just came out called The Need to Lead. Dave Burke is one of his guys that work with him at Echelon Front. And he was a Top Gun instructor. And he talks about taking accountability for every action, not only for yourself, but for the team. Okay. And then this last one, a great coach will make his players see what they can be, not what they are today. Okay, that is the true test of a great coach. Tom Coughlin won two Super Bowls with the Giants, beat Tom Brady. Okay, ask yourself this and write this down if you can. Myself as a leader, am I speaking to the player or the person that I know that individual to be, or am I speaking to them who they are today? Because not every day is going to be easy, right? There's going to be challenges. Your salespeople are going to get down. Your employees are going to get down, right? But can you help them see that long-term vision? Can you help them see where they can grow and the person they can become? Okay. And there's three things that I feel like are the most valuable skill sets as leaders yet the most underdeveloped. And the number one thing, it starts with a C. I've yet to have someone guess when I ask this question, but I will see if someone can surprise me today on Wednesday, March 25th, and guess what the number one skill set or competency a leader can have. Starts with a C. Put it in the chat if you want to take a guess at it. Wow. First one, courage. Keel, have you heard me speak before? That's incredible. Courage, absolutely 100% the number one characteristic or competency you can have as a leader. Courage. You can have the best system. If you don't have the courage to drive adoption of it or implement it, nothing else matters, right? If you don't have the courage to have the tough conversation with the underperforming rep, how are they going to get better? Right? And it's not easy. The only reason these coaches, Nick Saban, Jocko, are comfortable in having these tough conversations is because they do it all the time, right? They have the courage to act and have the first tough conversation, and then it gets easier the more times that you have it. But if you've never had the tough conversation, the courage to do that is going to be almost feel insurmountable. Okay. And the second one is another C word. Anybody have another idea and I talked about it, see if you were listening. I talked about it earlier on the call. The second most important characteristic of a leader starts with a C. Anybody have a guess? Okay. Confidence, that's a good one. Communication. Communication. If you're not communicating to your team in a way in which they understand, I talked about this before, everyone receives information differently. Everyone has a different personality. So if you're not communicating whatever information you're trying to give to them in a way in which they understand, you're missing it. Okay. And if you're not listening in a way in which they feel heard. So when a frustrated rep or an employee shares something with you, if you're like, yeah, yeah, I got it. Are they going to feel heard? No. No, is that gonna build trust um between you two? No, absolutely not. Compassion, that's another one. Absolutely. So we got courage, communication, and the last one is integrity. Your courage drives your integrity, and your integrity drives your courage. It is tough. It is not always fun. It is difficult to do the right thing sometimes, right? When a job goes south and you have to have the integrity, the courage to have the integrity to go speak to that homeowner and be like, hey, Mrs. Jones, I'm sorry. Listen, I take full responsibility. What we're going to do is X, Y, and Z. Here's here's the path or plan forward for us to fix this situation, make it right, and make sure that this job gets done smoothly from here on out. Okay, here's another thing I want to say just to put a bow on this. All of these individuals that I'm sharing with you on this screen, and there's a million other ones that are really, really high level leaders. If you don't hold the team accountable and have courage, other people are going to lose trust in your ability to lead. There's going to be a lack of trust. All of these individuals right here that I showed you have trust built within the team. When they say something, when they drive adoption, when they're bringing something down from the top and doing a new offensive scheme, or they're doing a new 2026 plan to execute on the new goal that's been set collectively as a team, if there's not trust there and there's no commitment to move forward with that goal, are we going to hit it? The likelihood is probably not. Okay. So I just want to share three leaders that I think are super, super good at what they do and are still continuing to add value to people that are in their hemisphere. Okay, let's look at some holes in the system, right? So 1 to 3 million, not tracking leads in the CRM. How many of you guys have a CRM? Put a one in the chat if you guys CRM. It's a crazy question to ask now in 2026, right? Everyone has a CRM. Now, if we were having this conversation a decade ago, I guarantee you over half, if not more, maybe even 75% of you guys would be like, yeah, we don't have a CRM. What's a CRM? Right? Just 10 years ago, right? Now, fast forward from today, 10 years into the future. What is that going to look like in the industry? Okay, the tech, the tools, the training, everything's going to be doubled down. Are you going to be a part of the industry? Are you going to still be involved in making a difference and helping homeowners? Or are you going to fall by the wayside? Okay, and it starts with all of these things. If you have a hole, you need to plug the hole. And I'll share with you kind of how you do that later on in this call. What's the next one? Not having a selling system. I talked about this. A sales methodology, some milestone. So we teach something here called baseline selling. It's not rigid scripts. We still want the personality of the person, of the sales rep to come through. We want them to sound like a robot. Hi, Mrs. Jones. How are you? I'm with XYZ company. No. We want to establish milestones. And as long as we're checking those boxes throughout the sales process, we know we're moving in the right direction and we know we can move to the next stage of the sales process. But if we don't have this, I talked about this earlier, if you don't have a selling system, whose are you going to revert to? The prospect or your sales rep. What's the prospect sales process? Yeah, I don't really want to talk. I'm probably going to get three quotes and I'm going to go with the lowest one. Can you build a company off of that? Can you provide for your family off of that? If you're a salesperson, if you're an owner, can you build a predictable, profitable, sustainable company for years to come off of that lack of sales process or selling system? No, you can't. You can't. So make sure if you guys have questions, this is something that we do and we build out for companies all across the country. And I'll be honest with you, I would say it's probably 65 to 75% of the problems that we see as to why people aren't closing or generating the revenue that they want because they don't have a system. They're just going out, they're kind of shooting from the hip. It varies from household to household. You got one sales rep doing this, you have one sales rep doing that. So you look at any sports team or any company, they have an identity, they have a plan, they have a scheme, they have a system that they're moving collectively. And hey, this is our mantra. This is how we engage with prospects. This is how we have customer success. This is how we take care of them. This is how we ask for referrals. So all of that is unified. If it's not unified, it's going to be disoriented and it's going to be very hard to keep track of all of those individual things. Another thing, no sales plans or goal. Okay, if you're not measuring it, how can you move it? How are you, as an owner, making smart financial decisions if you don't have a sales plan for your team and for the company? If I don't have a goal, what am I doing? Right? A dream without goals is just that. It's just a dream. Okay, it's not a reality. But if I have goals, if I have a plan, then I know I have something I can work towards. And when I hit that, I give myself a sense of accomplishment. Okay, let's look at some holes here So clear data, I just want to be clear. Clear data equals clear outcomes. So building a dashboard in your CRM, I guarantee you is a capability that it has. It's just a question of do you have it or are you doing it or is it done in your company? And for the most part, I would say some of us don't have that. Okay. And it's very, very easy to do. If you have questions on doing this is something again that we do with contractors across the country. We look at their CRM, make sure it's clean, make sure there's dashboard, we're tracking the right KPIs, key performance indicators. I need to know where my team is at and where my company is. Okay. So a couple wins. So Nelson Exteriors, last year we were able to get them 800K ahead of plan. We were able to increase their average job size just from putting baseline selling in place. Blue and Blue, another one, we tripled their revenue in just 2 months through baseline selling, through tracking the right metrics. Okay, so these are small changes. These aren't massive, hey, scorched earth, we're changing everything that got you guys here. No, I guarantee you, every single person on this webinar in their company, you're doing multiple things right. So we want to add to that. We're not going to wipe everything away, and we didn't wipe everything away with these two companies that you see. We just added or solidified the foundation of what they already had in place. Okay, so let's look at 3 to 5 million. No referral program. Okay, I just talked to one of my buddies who created a really cool tool in homeowners and what they get for getting a referral. Here's the reality. If you're not asking for it, how are you going to build that honey hole? How are you going to build those high intent people that want to close at a high clip where there's trust built because you've already had success in their neighbor or their family, right? And what's the worst thing they can say? No, right? They're going to say, no, that's okay. You're at the same spot you are today. But if you ask, so 91% of people, 91% of all referrals close, but only 11% of the salespeople that we tested say they ask for them consistently. Okay, so that's a huge gap. Just think about in your job right now. Hey, Mrs. Jones, do you feel like there's anybody else that could benefit from my expertise and my service and my company in being able to protect their biggest investment or to cool their house or provide a better a semblance of life like I did with you? Yeah, actually, John and Jody down the street. Awesome. Would you do me a favor? Would it be too much just to ask if you could put us in a group text, or maybe an intro email, or walk me down there while I'm here, just so I can build that relationship and that trust with that individual? Sure. What's the worst they can say? No, then you're in the same spot. But I guarantee you, if you've done, now, big if you've done what you needed to do as a sales rep, as a company, people are going to refer you. They're not experts in HVAC, plumbing, electrical, painting, fencing, roofing. They're not. So they want to work with someone that there's trust built, there's relationship, there's honesty, there's credibility, and then they want to refer that and get that off their plate. Okay, they're not experts in those fields. You guys are. So remember that. Another one, no onboarding system for teammates, not just sales, for anybody in the company. If you don't have an onboarding playbook, what's going to happen? You're going to give a new rep a task, right? And then they're going to complete the task. And then what are they going to do? They're going to call you. Or they're going to text you. Hey, Rod. Hey, Jerry, I completed that task. What next? Is that efficient or effective for ramping up a new rep or a new person? No. How many people in the chat right now on this call have some semblance, or they can say, yeah, we have an onboarding system, whether it's skeleton, whether it's bulletproof, and you have video modules and you have e-documents and you have quizzes and you have all of these gated thresholds where someone can go from outside your company to successful in 90 days. Does anybody have that here? Put a one in if you do. Okay. Looks like so this could be valuable. I mean, if you wanted to take one thing from this call, building out, okay, so James has it. But as a whole, it looks like a lot of us don't. And that's okay. That's why you're here. So again, building out an onboarding system, I'm going to share with you here in a little bit what that looks like. Okay. So I'm going to speed this up a little bit because we're already 5 minutes past half the hour. So sales reps not getting effective one-on-one coaching. The honest truth, can you tell if a sales rep honestly or truthfully why they didn't close the deal? If you're not out there, if you're not riding along with them? No, you can't. Are they going to be honest with you? Or are they even going to know why they failed or why the deal didn't close? Probably not, right? So you need to be out in the field. There's a couple tools that you can leverage. Sales Ask, Rilla, Zero, AI transcription tools where you can actually listen to the call and then you can break it down. And it'll give you a specific coaching moment to where you can work with that individual and say, hey, this part of the deal was great. You asked really great questions when you built rapport and you were doing discovery. But when we got to the later stages of the sales process, you really didn't gain their commitment on their willingness to move forward with this decision in the next 72 hours, week, whatever it may be. You didn't really set the timeline. Okay. So, unreliable sales reporting. Again, if I don't have accurate data, how can I make smart decisions? How can I invest in more marketing? How can I get another wrap on the truck? How can I bring on that leadership person, that operations person, that production person who's on salary, who's adding to the overhead if I don't know what my sales reporting looks like? Okay. So 5 to 10 million, no inside sales rep, no customer service team. Okay. If you don't have someone designated, even at 1 to 3 million, if you don't have someone designated to answering the phone when a lead comes in and is set to pre-qualify them, and it's just like a round robin, it's like, yeah, it just goes to the salesperson. The salesperson answers the call. Is that going to set yourself up for success? Is that going to be your best chance at arming the sales rep or having the right information to go out when you get to the appointment and be successful and win that job? No, it's not. It's not. So do what you need to do. Designate someone who is the inside, whether it's the office person or whoever, that can have a framework of questions. When a lead comes in, they can ask, hey, so is this the first time you've dealt with a contractor before? Okay, interesting. What was that past experience like? Okay, how long have you been in the home? Right? These questions that you get the same reoccurring questions every single time you work with a prospect. So have a framework of questions, have a template built out that the person answering the phone can go through, and then you can arm the salesperson with better information when they go out and you feel like they already know the prospect. Okay, no discipline in prospecting and self-generated lead efforts. Okay, if you're not knocking around the build and leveraging the credibility and brand equity and brand awareness for your company in doing that job, you're selling yourself short. Why would you not want to sell the show and say, hey, Mrs. Jones trusted me? And guess here's the thing, neighbors are nosy, right? Neighbors are nosy. When you're doing a job, they see the truck out in front of the house, they're gonna be peeking through the blinds. Go over there. Go over there and say, hey, I just want to introduce myself. Proactively have conversations. It might not be a today, hey, yeah, absolutely, we have a problem. But when it does come time for them to need your services, you've already built that connection. Okay. Clover, 4 pack, 8 pack, whatever, just do it. Just go out and knock and have friendly conversations in the neighborhood. Okay. No predictable advertising strategies and campaigns. Okay, so this is the thing. Is marketing everything? No. Is marketing ever changing? 100%. Do you need to rely on the sales rep and not just marketing? Absolutely. Without a doubt. If you fully rely on marketing and the sales rep has no prospecting or no pipeline built up from them building out their own backlog of business or their own pipeline of business, you're selling yourself short. Okay. So I love marketing combined with the human element of sales. When those two are married together, that's when companies win, and they win consistently and they win predictably. Okay. Ineffective ride along from sales leaders. I talked about this. If you're not out in the field, if you're in the ivory tower, in the office, how are you going to know what your sales reps are saying out with the prospect? You're not. They're not going to come back, and they're not going to either know where they failed or they know why they failed, or they're not going to be honest because they feel some type of way because they lost the deal and now they're ashamed, or now they're um, now they're concerned that you're going to be frustrated with them. So go on the field, especially with a new hire, ride along with them, teach them, be a master of the sales process, show them the way, teach them, but also have them demonstrate it with you. Okay. And here's the thing. 5 to 10 million dollar companies, even 20, 30, 40, 50, $100 million companies, it is still a problem. The sales reps aren't getting effective one-on-one coaching and accountability. Why? Because it's not prioritized, and whatever you prioritize will prosper. So if it's not prioritized, it's going to fall by the wayside. Okay, so take the time today and start spending it with the sales rep, with the new employee, with the new hire. Okay, it's going to be beneficial. You're going to have a higher likely chance of them retaining and then being a top producer or a better, bigger involvement in your company. Okay, so let's look at compare and contrast between a sales leader and a sales manager. So a sales manager leads with conclusions. Leads with conclusions. Hey, yeah, so it looks like you underperformed here. So is that because X? That's leading with conclusions, right? Micromanaging. Why does someone micromanage? Because they do not trust the training they put that rep or that employee through. Corrects for compliance, right? Hey, Drew, honestly, man, I don't want to do this, but I'm going to have to write you up. I'm going to have to put you on a performance improvement plan because of X, right? That's correcting for compliance. That's not coaching for commitment. Okay. Blames conditions and circumstances, right? Oh, it's the economy or it's the material prices. There's always going to be a reason, right? But you have the ability to get results. Do not be the manager. Do not be the micromanager. Do not live in the past. Do not spend all your time on estimates and proposals, and do not set ultimatums. Hey, Rod, listen, man, the end of the month's coming up. You're underperforming. If you don't close, $50,000 in revenue, I'm going to have to fire you. Right? Is that going to help anybody get to a point to where they feel confident and they feel like they can be successful and they can feel like they can hit that number? No, it goes back to the Nick Saban thing, right? Do not come down on them and coach them constructively when they are failing. Do not set ultimatums. That's not helping anybody. It's hurting everybody involved. Okay, let's look at the flip side. A leader leads with curiosity. Okay. Hey, Jerry, I've seen a couple trends here when we were role playing or like these last few deals. Help me understand why you feel like you're not being successful in these last couple deals. Lead with curiosity. Lead with curiosity. Gain their understanding or feel or talk to them and understand why they are not succeeding. Okay. Make sure you're empowering them, right? Build confidence in them. Have the training in place to where they can go out and then they can in turn build more leaders. The true test of a great leader is not how many followers they have, but how many leaders that they can create. Okay. Collaborate on clarity. Gain clarity on whatever the situation is. Okay. Do not lead with conclusions. Be able to demonstrate expertise in the sales process or whatever process you're training the person on or whatever process you're speaking or trying to coach them on. If you can't do it yourself, is there going to be trust built? No. They're gonna be like, yeah, Rod really doesn't know what he's talking about. So I don't feel like, how's he trying to coach me if he doesn't know how to do it? Okay. So the true test of a leader is, can you take someone from outside the industry? Ryan just popped in on camera and popped up. Transform talent into revenue generators. Okay. Can you take someone from outside the industry, outside your company, get them into a system and get them ramped up to be successful and self-sufficient? That is the true test of a leader. And ultimately, it is servant leadership. You are serving, you are supporting your team. Okay. It is a selfless act. When your team wins, you win. And I'll tell you this, when my team wins, it's way cooler than when I just win individually. We want to win collectively. And the glue that holds the team together. Can you come into that meeting? Can you come into that all hands conference call and have that positive energy and speak to the people that you know your employees to be? Or are you stating their underperformance and you're like, hey guys, yeah, man, we really need to finish at this. We need to close 150,000 more this month. Is that going to get everybody motivated? Is that going to get everybody inspired to go out and sell? No, it's going to create fear. Okay. And fear does not do anybody good. Okay. So let's move into this. The most expensive manager is the one with no process. Would you guys agree? Put a one in the chat if you feel like this is an accurate statement. Absolutely. The most expensive manager is the one with no process. Either they revert to the salesperson's process, or they revert to the homeowner's process, or they revert to the company's process, the lack thereof, whatever it may be. If you don't have one, you are costing yourself money, but ultimately you're costing yourself time, which is the most important thing that you actually cannot buy back. All right. So let's move here. So let's talk about our sales management system. I'm going to drop this in the chat so you guys will have a chance to download this. This is our resource that you can go through and you can look at and you can fill out after this call. And some of you guys, if you've heard me speak, this is a valuable piece of information. So I'm going to put it here. And so you guys can click on that, download that. If you're driving, don't do both. So this is our scorecard. Okay, so it goes through these different foundations: sales execution, culture, motivation, sales enablement, and then leadership and strategy. These are the pillars of what make up a successful company. Okay, so I put that in there. It'll be in there till the end of the call. I'll leave it up there for a couple more minutes for you guys to have, just to be able to download that and look at that. Okay, so let's move on to, if you guys have any questions. So if you guys have any questions or you don't see the download, so you click on so if you click on that link right there, Danielle, did it not come up? Okay. So let's do this. So basically scan this. So we've attached it to the toolkit. I just talked to our marketing guy. If you scan this QR code and you download this, in that toolkit, this scorecard will be included in that. So just take a picture of that, scan it at a later date, or if you're on your computer, scan this QR code, fill it out, and then we'll send over the sales management system. We have our CEO's guide to pipeline analysis, and then this scorecard will be in here. Yeah, James, if you scan this QR code, yeah, QR code works with the toolkit. So if you guys scan that, the scorecard will be in there. So you'll have a chance to go through that. You can print it out. So do this. If you do that section really well, it's a 5. It's like an A grade. If you're not doing it at all and you're like, this is non-existent, it's a 1. It's an F. So it's graded 5 if you really do it great, 1 if it's non-existent. So you can go through and tally all this up and see how you match up in compensation, sales process, ride along, CRM, pipeline hygiene, all that stuff. Okay, so I'm going to move on here just so we can get to the rest of the content. So how do we get to this outcome, right? How do we get to the outcome of having a predictable company, a profitable company, a system where we can recruit people in, there's accountability, we've raised the standard, all of these things are involved, right? How do we get there? Well, number one is onboarding. Okay, if you're not onboarding and you're not tying people in and you're not getting them to buy in to the culture and mission day one, the likelihood of them getting a great first impression is slim to none. Okay, so it builds buy-in early on and it helps new reps or new employees understand the why behind what you guys do, right? And here's the thing. When you talk about core values, I'm not talking about live, laugh, love, or some corny thing. I'm talking about actual core values and identity and what your company is built around. Okay. So you only get realistically four seconds to make a first impression. So your rep, your new employee is judging you. That's just a reality. So make sure that they are tied in, they're bought in to why you guys do what you do. And in addition to that, in onboarding, make sure if you guys want to screenshot this, or again, we'll send you the recording of the webinar here after, because these are super, super valuable pieces of information that I think if you're not doing, you can implement tomorrow and it's going to change the course of your business. Another one, product and industry training, right? They need to comprehend, they need to retain the information so they can speak to what you guys do and it can make the job easier, whether that's CRM training, whether that's material training, whether that's installation, whatever it may be. If they don't feel well versed in that, are they going to be able to speak to that with a homeowner with confidence? No. They're going to be stuttering, they're going to be uncertain, and then here's the reality. Now more than ever, a homeowner is more researched, they've looked around, and they want to go with someone who's perceived as an expert. The showing up and throwing up and the stuttering and all this and that is no more, right? Homeowners are more they're more scrupulous with their contractor search, right? The money is tighter than ever. So when they make this investment, they want to be certain they're making it with the right person. So make sure your new employee can speak to whatever you guys do as an expert, not an amateur. A clear sales process playbook's the next one. I told you this will make or break your new hire as a sales rep. If there's not unity in what they're saying or there's not a unified message, you're making it harder not only on yourself to coach them, but you're also making it harder on the rep to then get developed. Okay. And then number 4, shadowing and role play. Okay. Learning by doing increases retention. I can talk to you all day, but that's why I try to drive engagement. Obviously, it's hard to do on a webinar, but if you're not going through an exercise and doing it with them, the chances of them retaining it are way, way lower than you getting them in, right? You should practice more than you play. When you're role playing, get them, put them on the hot seat. Are they going to be great at it first? No, no one's great at role playing when you first do it. No one likes role playing most times. Why? Because you don't do it enough to be confident. Okay. Think about this. Put this in the chat real quick. What's something that you guys love to do and that you would say, hey, I'm great at this? Whether that's personally, whether that's professionally. Okay, put that in the chat because I'm curious of what you guys feel confident and comfortable doing. Maybe that's you're a great fisher or you're great at high rocks or you're a great artist. Something like that. What are you demonstrating with expertise in your day-to-day life? Everyone's driving or eating lunch. It's right at lunch, so I'm sure people are eating lunch. Music, Anthony. Okay, beautiful, right? When you first started out as a musician, was it easy? Did you like it? No, you're probably like, man, this is frustrating. But you kept going, right? You kept pushing through that. So your new rep, teaching my kids how to identify and express feelings. Wow, that's powerful, Danielle. Absolutely. Right. And the first time you're teaching, you're having the courage to have that conversation with your kids, right? It's probably an uncomfortable one, right? And for the kids, I know for sure because being emotional, expressing my feelings isn't necessarily my strong suit. I'm getting better. I'm working at it. But that's not something that I like to do early on. Why? Because I'm not comfortable with it. I'm not good at it. I'm not good at expressing my feelings. I'm not a good musician. So if I picked up a guitar, I would be like, this sucks. I'm not good at this. But if I continue to practice the joy and the love for whatever skill that I'm developing it's gonna grow. So make sure that we're shadowing, we're role playing, we're getting people in the mix. Okay, we're getting them confident. You have to be uncomfortable before you can grow. Absolutely. That's funny enough. On the next slide, it literally says that. It says getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. So we're in alignment, Danielle. And then here's the thing, the quick wins and the milestones. Okay, why it matters. It gives you visibility into how your new hire is doing. It's going to reduce turnover and it proves that success is possible. So you should have quick wins. Day one, week one, what is that win? Anybody ever read the book Make Your Bed by Abram McCraven? Great book. Great book. He said making your bed is the most important thing you can do in your life today. Why? Because it gives you a sense of accomplishment. You make your bed, you have a sense of accomplishment, then you build momentum. Then you go out and you eat a really healthy breakfast. And then now you feel like you've been energized and you have the right nutrients, and now you can go out and be successful. Versus you wake up late, you don't make your bed, you come out, you're scrambling, you do all this, and now you're just in this state of chaos. And are you really giving yourself the chance to be successful? Probably not. So establish quick wins and milestones for your new hires so they get that sense of accomplishment. Okay, let's look at the next one. Teaching, training, coaching, right? Establish a regular cadence with your new hires, with your reps outside of the company-wide sales meetings to develop their skills. What does that look like? Role playing, ride alongs, call recordings, looking at their pipeline, making sure they understanding the CRM, making sure they understand what roadblocks or constraints there are in the deals so you help them close them. So to Danielle's point, get your reps being comfortable with being uncomfortable. Athletes train more than they play. You look at any sports team, they're not just showing up for the game and that's the first time they've picked up the ball or bat or basketball or tennis racket or whatever. They practice and they're practicing not to get something right. They're practicing till they can't get it wrong. So you think about this, when you're driving a car, right? You don't have to think about, okay, left, right, gas is on the right, brakes on the left. No, you do it without thinking. It's called unconscious competence. I can demonstrate it without thinking. Some of us, I'm guilty, are texting and driving, and you're still driving, and hopefully you don't get in a car wreck, but you've done it so many times. Anybody ever driven and you get home and you like wake up and you're like, how did I get home? I don't even remember getting home. Why? Because you've done it so many times. So here's the reality. You want to invest in your new hires. You want to invest in your new reps off the field so there's a return on it. So take the time to prioritize the training, the coaching off the field, in the office, put them on the hot seat. Is role playing fun? Is it easy? Absolutely not. But is it going to make that rep the best version of themselves? Without question. Without question. And here's the thing. The best athletes, when I was with the White Sox or when I was playing against the best athletes in the world, they got back to the basics and they did the boring, monotonous stuff every single day because they knew they had to master it because when they got in the game, the lights were brighter, the crowd was louder. And then, like I said before, you don't rise to the occasion, you fall to your level of preparation. So make sure your team is falling to the level of preparation that you put forth for them. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So West Pro is a company out of Denver. So they were predominantly a insurance-based company. We were able to put together some retail qualifications and trainings for their rep to be able to differentiate themselves, diversify a little bit, because if you guys are out that way, you know Denver or Colorado didn't get storms for a couple of years. So we were able to have them hit their first $1 million month and increase their close rate to almost 35%, with it being 26% over target through training, coaching, baseline selling. The exact things that I'm talking about here, the exact things that you downloaded are the same things that we delivered with them. It was just a little bit more tailored because we were on site with them and it was built out specific. Okay. Sales meetings, please, please, please keep them purpose driven. Have an agenda, make sure it's focused. Okay. It's efficient. It's tied to results. Celebrate the wins. Okay. Gain that positive momentum. Do not publicly chastise or criticize someone for their underperformance in the sales meeting. That is not the place. We are trying to raise the energy. We're trying to gain positive momentum. We are not trying to make it like a morgue or we're like at the dentist and it's like, man, this meeting sucks. Right? We're talking about how we're not winning. We're talking about this. That's not the place for it. That's not the place for it. Celebrate wins. Okay. Make sure There's revenue-centered accountability. Okay, it keeps the team aligned on goals. What are we doing percentage to goal? Okay, focused on the high impact activities that are going to help us get closer to that goal. So what's the three things we can do as a company today to move us closer to that daily goal or that weekly goal or the monthly goal? What's the goal for the month? Or what's the quarterly goal? Or how are we moving closer and closer and closer to our 2026 goal? And then what are we doing in terms of forecasting? What deals do we have coming in for the week? And how are we removing any obstacles with the team to make sure we give ourselves the highest percentage chance to close those opportunities? So it prevents surprises and it helps you course correct early. You can catch the trends before being surprised and you look back and you come to the next meeting and you're like, man, what happened to all these deals? I have no idea, right? We have to coach proactively, not reactively. Okay. All right. So the next one, accountability. Okay. This is one-on-one with your reps. This happens every single week. Please do it because it is going to give you an idea of their performance, of how they're feeling, their mindset. Are they motivated? Are you helping them achieve their goal? Are they moving closer to the goal, the commitment that you gain with them? Don't just say, hey, your quota is $150,000 and you're X amount percent to goal. That's not going to speak to them. That's not going to motivate them. And I truly believe that you cannot motivate somebody. You can inspire them, you can educate them, you can empower them, you can encourage them, you can do all those things, but you can't motivate. You can speak to what motivates them, right? Whether that's the new rep or your underperforming rep wants to buy a new house or wants to buy his first home or wants to buy his girlfriend an engagement ring. Whatever that is, speak to that because that is going to motivate them more because that's something that they shared with you as their goal. Money is just a vehicle. It's not the end all be all, but it helps someone achieve whatever outcome they're trying to get. Okay. So for the accountability meeting, look to review revenue with your rep. Go into the CRM. If there's no revenue, okay, now we peel it back and we look at pipeline. If there's no pipeline, now we're going to look at activity. What's the follow-up cadence been like? Has there been a drip campaign? Is there automations in there? Is there multi-thread messaging? Or has there been no communication for 21 days and now okay, this is why this deal hasn't closed because homeowners, prospects are going to go with who stays in front of them. Okay. If there's no activity at all, then we need to review the standards and have a conversation about maybe a performance improvement plan, or we need to speak back to that self-actualized goal that they shared with you. So if you haven't done this in your company, I strongly suggest you need to do a personal goal setting worksheet with them. That's something that we do with every company we work with. We go on site, and then the first thing we do with the team is not sales training, anything like that. When we're working with the actual team, we're going through a 7-layer why. Okay. Why are you at this company, at this role, at this training? And for every rep, it's going to be different, but you boil it down to what gets them out of bed in the morning. The Japanese have a word for it, and I can't remember it, but it's basically what causes you or what is your why, what gets you out of bed. You need to figure out what that is for each individual rep. Okay. So have the courage to have the tough conversations. And this is one thing I want to stress. Separate the problem from the pattern. Is this a unique instance or is this a reoccurring theme? Don't assume it's both. Don't assume it's a pattern or don't assume it's a unique problem. Gain clarity and have the courage to have a tough conversation around that. Okay. Hey, Danielle. So help me understand. I know you're trying to buy that investment property. That's great. I see that X happened this week. I see your follow-up kind of faltered a little bit. Tell me what's going on. What's going on with you? Is something at home? How's everything? How's the kids? Right? How's the husband? Right? Or whatever it may be, have the courage to have those tough conversations because in the end, you're ultimately going to help them, not hurt them by having those conversations. And then have you guys ever noticed this, that complaints are ideas in disguise? Like if your sales rep or your employee is complaining, like redirect those complaints into contributions. Okay, that's just an idea in disguise. So there's a great book, if you guys can write this down, it's called Relentless Solution Focus. Relentless Solution Focus. Most people walk through life problem-centric thinking. They think about the problem. They're not solution-oriented. You have 60 seconds once you feel like a problem comes into your mind to switch and say, what is an immediate solution that I can do to get myself out of this situation? Okay. So when your rep brings a complaint to you, train them on that. Say, hey, what do you think we should do here? I totally agree. This definitely seems like a problem. What is your best guess on what we should do here? And maybe they don't know, but get them to start thinking. Don't just give them the answer. Don't just give them the solution to the problem. Pull that out of them because that is going to develop them way, way better and it's going to stick. It's going to be way stickier than you just giving them the answer. Okay. And then I talked about this before, redefine cognition. What actually motivates your rep? What actually motivates your employee? It's going to be different for every single person specifically. Is there going to be some general themes that are the same? Sure, but it's going to be different in general. Okay, or in specifics. Okay, here's the thing. For that accountability meeting, you can build out a what we call a five-star rep scorecard. So looking at each individual rep's performance, do they have any self-generated leads? Are they building a honey hole? Have they knocked any doors, right? How many leads are qualified currently? Right? How many proposals have been submitted currently? What is the closing rate? Okay. And the closing rate is not just initial conversations. I like to look at, there's two ways you can track it. I like tracking lead qualified opportunities and what percentage of those close, not just random conversations that never had any real pain. Okay. It has to be a qualified opportunity and then what percentage of those actually close. What's the average sales cycle? Okay, this is going to help you as an owner, as a sales leader to understand if the average sales cycle is 14 days, right? And it's grown to 31 days. Okay, that's an issue. That's a coaching moment. Figure out what is causing that delay or that lengthening of the sales cycle. Okay, total revenue booked. This is more for commercial roofing. Total revenue booked, or even on the HVAC side with service and maintenance, private negotiated or re-roof or a new system versus a service contract and maintenance. Okay, different revenues being tracked there, and then number of referrals. How many referrals did that sales rep get this week? And then what's our 30-day forecast in terms of revenue? All of these things are important. If you're not tracking it, you're just guessing. There's not going to be clarity. It's going to be confusion. Okay. So real quick, we have I'm gonna 2 more minutes. I'm gonna go through just this last thing, and then I'm gonna have a second to answer questions here at the end. Create the culture, a real culture. Anybody know who that is? If you're a sports fan, anybody know who that is right there, that team? Everyone's like, I don't watch baseball. No one knows who that is? Come on. Not a sports fan. Okay. Danielle, what Yankees? Absolutely. Derek Jeter, 100%. So here's the thing. The culture, the Yankee way, and the reason that I have so many commonalities between sports and business is because a high performing sports team moves exactly like a high performing sales team, moves exactly like a high performing business. Would you guys agree? I think so. The best sports team in the world, it's basically a high performing sales team. It's a high performing business. So there was a player at the time back in 2004. He signed the biggest contract in Major League Baseball history. Best player in the world. He wasn't winning at his current company, at his current team. He called Derek Jeter and was like, "Hey, Jeter, I know you're the king of New York. What I want to do, man, I want to win. I want to win a World Series. I like winning. High performers want to win. It's you can get paid all you want, but if you're not winning collectively as a unit, they're not going to be satisfied." Okay? So that person was Alex Rodriguez. Alex Rodriguez changed positions. He was a shortstop. For those of you that don't know, he was a shortstop and changed positions and moved over to third base because he wanted to be a part of the culture. Ask yourself this right now. Do A players want to be a part of my company? And then ask yourself this. If I was on the outside looking in, would I want to work in my company? Do I have the culture that would attract me, that attracts other high performers? If I don't, what is causing that? What is the disconnect? Why am I not attracting A players, top performers? Why can I not retain them? Well, it's probably a couple different things, like we just talked about. It's probably the onboarding. It's probably lack of a system, a sales management system. It's probably lack of a sales process. You don't have an onboarding playbook. All of those things play a factor into why maybe our branding's not on point, right? We don't look unified. We're not professional. We don't have good marketing. We don't have good content, right? Social media now more than ever is capturing people's eyes, and there's a ton of young, hungry people out there that are going to be drawn to the company that looks attractive and that is winning and that shows you success is possible. Okay. So create the culture, a real culture, not a live, laugh, love. And yeah, no, create the real culture so you can attract the right people and be a part of your company. And the last thing. Okay. So here's a company, Seek One Roofing. They're out of Franklin, Tennessee. Okay. Look at them. All professional, all branded, all unified in their messaging. I'm actually going up there in 2 months or like a month and a half to do some more training with them. We were able to solidify their structure and accountability. And then they already had systems, right? Are we tied to every single piece of revenue that they did? No. They had some foundational elements in place. They've been in our world for about 4 years. They've been in multiple conferences that we put on. So, but they have the ability almost better than I've ever seen another company. They have the ability to take young, hungry potential and then turn it into revenue generators. They can put them through their Seek One Sales Academy and they can get them ramped up, self-sufficient, and they have autonomous, empowered people in their company that are training other people. Right, that are training, that are bringing in other people. Like their top performers are bringing in their friends, and then they're training their friends, and now you're just growing the sales team. They did $22 million last year, 5 years after being in business. So we were able to help accelerate that growth path. Okay. And then the last thing I want to touch on before we kind of have a space for questions, compensation and SPIFs, right? If money does not motivate your team in some way, shape, or form, I would question what they're doing there. Now, money is not the end all be all, but it definitely drives behavior, and make sure that you have an attractive compensation plan that speaks to and drives that behavior towards revenue. Okay. Making sure we're aligned with the rep, the actions with your company, and the goals. And then it's tied back to what I talked about, the personal goals. Okay, what motivates them? Okay, it boosts the culture. So if you're having an underperforming week, do a competition, man. Put a spiff in place. Put a spiff in place to get the slower production and add a little more money in their pocket to incentivize them to go out and close more business. Okay, you can also do this for your top performers. That company I just showed you before, Seek One, has 4 top performer sales summits a year. So they take their top guys to Destin or to Scottsdale to play golf, and they capture the content, and then they put that content out there on social media. And what does that do? That draws eyes of other people that are looking for a company to be a part of. And they're like, man, this looks really cool. They're winning. They get to go on these cool trips. They get to help all these homeowners. They look like they're a professionalized company because they are, right? So make sure, and here's the thing, ask yourself this, going back to kind of the culture, do you have a culture of competition or complacency? It's one of the two. Are you complacent? Are you scared to fire your person because you can't ramp someone else up? So you're kind of just being okay with their underperformance or their lack of standards or excellence? Or do you have a culture of competition where you're like, I don't even worry about it. We can fire that person. I can bring someone in. I can replicate that individual in 90 to 120 days. That's a powerful spot to be. So I was talking with Jordan. Jordan fired a $2.5 million producer the other day. And he was like, yeah, it was tough, but I know that I can grow another $2 million producer without question. Okay. But he maintained the standards and expectations that he set. And he had a conversation with that individual that he had to end up ultimately letting go of. And they had lost their way, right? They forgot where they came from. They weren't aligned with their core values. They weren't speaking truth. They weren't speaking in the way in which they should to their other people on the team. They had an attitude. So Jordan was like, nope, this isn't the place for you, man. No worries. See ya. Because I know I have the confidence to ramp someone else up. Okay. So I know we're running over on time, 8 minutes over. Anybody have any questions for me on sounds like poor coaching? Oh no, they coach, Jerry. Trust me. It's not poor coaching. You either coach someone up or you coach them out. He coached them out. Yeah, he coached them out. Definitely not poor coaching. Do you have a document that can be utilized to capture the reps' goals? Yes. So we have, it's called our personal transformation blueprint, and then we have our 7-layer why. So we actually have an e-doc. Ryan, is it in the toolkit? Do you know, or we can send that over in addition to that?
It's not in the toolkit. It's going to be taking place at their kickoff. So I know that the person who asked this, Danielle, when Brian goes on site, we're actually going to be doing this on site with them. So it's called the PTB. That's part of our 2-day kickoff that we do with all of our clients. We get the sales team fully bought in. It's funny, like I was just on a call with a commercial roofer in Tampa who's like, man, it is crazy how bought in and how much progress everybody has now. He's like, it's all about discovery. It's all about asking questions. It's all about getting through those uncomfortable discussions that people are accustomed to not having. And he's like, man, we're closing crazy amounts of deals that we never otherwise would have had. It's amazing to see this all happen. He's like, in 12 months, I'm going to be fishing, having business development meetings with big decision makers, fishing to help open doors while the sales guys are doing everything from contact to contract. And that's really the idea, is to have a system that works. It's not about a bunch of individual all-stars. It's about a bunch of people who run off of a really, really good system. So anyway, that's something we're definitely here for. I just want to answer a question for Kyle. By the way, I'm Ryan. I'm the founder of STG. So if you guys have not met me yet, I'm glad to just be hopping on and making sure Kyle's breathing that fire and that value, which I know he always does. Just wanted to listen in on him. But a SPIF is a sales performance improvement fund. So it's basically like you have your traditional compensation, but a SPIF would be a fund that you set aside to try to, create different behavior or improve behavior from the sales team. And I don't even like to use that word behavior all the time, but it's true. Like, what is the behavior we want? Well, we want to ask for more referrals. So let's do a SPIF this week who generates the most self-generated leads from asking for referrals. We're going to drop and give you, a couple $100 for steak dinner. That's one example of a small SPIF. Another one would be, hey, let's build some teams. You guys are the top producers. We're going to split up into teams, you three versus you three. Whoever wins at the end of the month and gets the most sales, we're going to drop another $2,500 each. That'd be a spiff. So those would be, examples of spiffs, and it's super fun. Adding that to your traditional comp plan really creates a fun culture for the organization.
Yeah. Here's the thing I want to, any other questions you guys have, but here's the thing. What I covered is not some flash in the pan silver bullet. It's a system. And there's no secret the system works, but ultimately you have to put in the necessary time. You have to prioritize this. That's the whole thing. Like we're going to show up, we're going to come on site, or hopefully whoever you work with, if it's not us, is going to show up. They're going to put a system in place. We would obviously love it to be us. We're going to show up, we're going to have the system in place. We can only lead a dog to water. We can't make you drink. So we can hold you accountable. We can raise the standard. But ultimately, if you are not doing or demonstrating what we're coaching you on, there's going to be a breakdown in the system. But it works. You just have to put in the time. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be overnight, but I promise you it is going to happen if you show up every day with energy and effort, which are two things that you don't need. It takes zero skill for energy and effort. You show up with a willingness to demonstrate or put in practice what we're coaching. And then I promise you things will change and your company will switch course and you'll have the best year you've had in your company's history in 2026. So, anybody else have any questions for us?
I'll give you a breather,
Yeah.
Kyle. So and you should drop your booking link because I would just want to make an
Yeah.
invitation for people to meet with you. Yeah, so Jerry, our sales process we teach is called baseline selling. It's a sales system that maps out stages of the sales process and milestones to hit. And are you commercial or residential, Jerry? And are you traditionally more, in what industry are you in? If you don't mind, that would help because we do have the the undergirding of the sales process, but we have some small tweaks that we make modifications. So if you could drop that in there, Jerry, would love to hear that. Commercial, okay, cool. And plastic bed liners, okay, got it. So essentially, what we teach is baseline selling is what we use for what we call a project consult or a traditional discovery. And so we have what's called home to first. Home is the starting point of all sales calls, and first base would be a meeting that you have in person with a new prospect or what we call a suspect, because we want to remain, healthy, have some healthy skepticism. And the milestones we hit between home and first are we've made contact. They have an identified issue or a request for a proposal, but they have an identified issue. And we've had a short discussion around that, and we have confirmed an in-person meeting. So now we're on first base, right? Here we go. We're playing ball. We have a meeting. So then the sales rep, we teach them how to do a few things from first to second, which is all about discovery and creating leverage and consultative selling. And we teach you how to establish, set the tone, and set the agenda for the meeting, lower resistance, polarize, um, past failures and past attempts, desired state. Ultimately, what we want to get to is there a compelling reason to buy, and we want to quantify the cost of not going with your solution, whether it's doing nothing and doing or going with a low bid. And that creates a lot of tension, a lot of discovery, and it really positions you as the expert. Now we're on second base. And from second to third, we do what's called qualifying. Now that we've created a gap and there's real tension and we've really listened and we're the expert, we were going to measure their ability to buy. Oh, thanks, Kyle. This is great. Um, and this is when we're going to make sure that there's commitment, they're willing to pay more to do it right with us and do it right this time. We're with the decision makers or decision makers. The question we like to ask in this stage is who else cares about this? And include them and into a conversation so that we can get to the actual decision makers. We understand their timeline and what their decision making process and criteria is. Then we're on third base. So now we're close to scoring here, right? And but if you rounded the bases properly, they're closing themselves at this point because they're really feeling connected to you and you've measured their ability to buy. So at this point, we would do a takeoff, estimate the project, whatever your process is to calculate a solution, and then you would present to their compelling reasons, and then close, which we would use the inoffensive close. And in the event there's objections, we would use the rule of triple elimination, and then the ACC-SC rule or formula to actually get them to go to a consequential state back to closing themselves. And then that's how we actually handle new clients. Okay. In commercial, which is what you're in, we teach two other meetings for sales reps to do. One is called an account development meeting, and one is called a BDM. So project consultations, ADMs, and BDMs like work together like a mechanism. Those generate leads and gets you on first base to then round the bases. And you just keep doing that over and again. And ADMs are powerful. They're proactive meetings with existing clients to expand scope, make sure the relationship's really good, and to deepen that relationship and go vertically, horizontally, or outside the organization to get referrals and to expand wallet share with that account. Because ultimately in commercial, it's a relationship game, it's an account game, but most people become farmers and reactive versus proactive strategic advisors and with these clients. And then BDMs would be strategic meetings to network or build relationships with non-competitive service providers who have access to your decision makers that then therefore you can be able to share and give to one another and network with one another to generate more leads and gain access to ideal clients. Those three things over and again, your sales reps, if they follow this with the right mindset training, they're accountable to the KPIs, they're led, they're coached, they will become multi-million dollar producers for you with margin and make revenue predictable. So that's my quick training in a nutshell.
Thanks, Ryan. Anybody else have Jared, that answer your question? Obviously, we could get, way off in the weeds on this, and this is something that we do specifically with your company, tailored to your make, model, market when we come on site. So in a virtual world, we see the value in coming on site in to kick off every partnership. So we work with leadership for the first 2 days on site, and we go through a couple different buckets, goal setting, what sales plan and vision we need to set in place. If we have core values, great. Let's make sure we're living by that, solidify that. And then we look at all the KPIs that you guys are tracking or not tracking. So we put that in place, and then we actually look at the recruiting system and onboarding. And are we able to systematically bring someone in to our company and get them to be successful and self-sufficient? If not, okay, then we can look to start building out an onboarding playbook. Then we look at the sales management system, like what I just talked about. And then we're building out some deliverables there with how to run a one-on-one meeting, how to run a revenue-centered sales meeting, different things. Yes, Rod, we'll send over a copy for this meeting, this Zoom link for the webinar. Absolutely. But yeah, so, and then we look to dive into the sales process and what that looks like. And then we'll actually role play on this sales process. Danielle, we'll go through the personal transformation blueprint when we get to the sales team, and then we're actually doing objection handling and making sure they're getting comfortable with being uncomfortable, like we talked about. Because here's the reality. Most people in your company probably haven't done this consistently as a whole or as a group, or maybe you're not even doing this at all. So us coming out there and laying the groundwork and understanding what their goal is, why are they at the company, and then now that's going to make them more receptive to the training. There's going to be trust built because they feel like we're actually helping them achieve their self-actualized goal, not whatever the company quota is. Right. So we just got to speak to that.
Yeah. One thing too that we do on site, and by the way, I dropped Kyle's link in here after him just to reinforce. We are looking for good companies that want to grow, that understand that they need a system, that want to make revenue predictable and make their sales team more proficient. And if that's something that you guys are struggling with, like take the time to meet with Kyle and share more in depth what all you're dealing with. And he'll tell you point blank. He'll tell you if it's not a fit, if you're too small, if you're not ready, if maybe some of the things you've already got in place or something that's a jumping point, or if you're really good and you don't even need any help. He'll tell you point blank, we want to serve the right types of companies that need help, that are willing to invest in growth and not just have a quick fix, but a sustainable change in making revenue predictable, having high margin clients, high margin projects, sales reps who are aligned with their core values, who are having success, and owners and main managers aren't having to carry the burden of sales forever. And they actually have no longer a high paying job, which is what you have when you own a company. You have a really high paying job that's ball and chain on you, or you have an organization that's thriving, and we can help you build that. I would highly recommend you book with Kyle. He's an expert. He's been with me for friend of mine for 2 decades, and then been working with me for 3+ years. Helping bring this transformation about in our industry. So definitely want you to meet with Kyle if you feel connection and resonance with us.
Yeah, appreciate that, Ryan. And here's the thing, to Ryan's point, like I don't even know that we can even help you. But I'll definitely do really good discovery and diagnose your company, your team, figure out, okay, is there a constraint? What is that constraint costing you? We can quantify that. Maybe you're losing, $100,000 by not having a selling system, or maybe you're losing $1 million by not following up. Whatever that may be, I'll identify that. And then I'll look to map out, okay, how do we solve this? What does the solution look like? What's the timeline to solve this? What does success look like with STG? What is the proposed solution? Build a custom roadmap to ensure that we hit that outcome and that target. And then I'll share with you the best path forward. So, if you're curious, if you want to jump on, if you want to learn more about kind of what I know, this was pretty compressed and what I talked about today. There's a ton of more content that I didn't cover that I can share with you if you want to get like a little one-on-one, analysis or understanding of how we move and what we do. I'm happy to jump on a call because I do think there's an opportunity for us to help each and every one of you in some way. And like I said before when we started the call, if I can give you one piece of valuable information that you actually implement and change, or we help be that vehicle of change with you, then I think you're going to be in a good spot in 2026. You're going to look back and say, hey, man, this was the best year that we've had. And this is the direct reason why. These are the three things that we did. And now we can build on that. And now we can gain momentum going into, Q2, Q3, Q4, and then 2027. Because it's already April pretty much. So the time is not stopping. So it's just if you guys are willing to invest your time and to prioritize something like this. So happy to have a conversation. Any further questions, final questions um, before we kind of wrap this up? Like Ryan said, my booking link's in there. I have this QR code that goes to my booking link as well on the screen if you guys are interested. But any final thoughts, questions that I can answer for you guys? Yeah, thanks for attending, Danielle. Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming. Anybody else? All right, Jerry. Jerry, I think we've met before. I think we've had a couple conversations in the past, since I've been here, if I'm remembering right. All right, if there's no more questions, maybe. Yeah, I talked to a lot of people too, so I barely remember what I ate for breakfast yesterday. All right, so do this. If I'm gonna leave the booking link up here, if you guys want to book a call, I'm not gonna sell you on anything. I'm just gonna diagnose. So again, I will let you know if we can help you or not. And here's the thing: might not be a good fit for you. You might not be a good fit for us, and I'll be honest with you in sharing that. Also, if there's no other questions, do me a favor and drop in here for those that are still on the webinar. Drop one thing from this that you learned or that you're going to change or take action on after this call. Everybody's like, man, I'm at lunch. Sales system for your team. Okay. Well, I'd be happy to have a conversation, Jerry. I mean, if it's an easy conversation. I'm happy to lay out what I think based on your model, your market, um what would add some immediate results. So if you want to book a call, feel free to do so. Look, here's the thing, right? If you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to get what you always got. So it's going to be hard. It changes is not easy, but I really encourage you to take action. So just like when I got sober, it was hard. I had to put myself out there. I wasn't sure. And one thing I want to leave you with is there's fear associated with all of this. There's fear in small business, there's fear in big business, there's fear in running a team, but true courage isn't the absence of fear. It's action in the midst of it. So I encourage you to take action today. Just have a conversation with me. Not going to pitch you. I'm just going to analyze what you got going on and see again what would add immediate ROI. How can we change one or two things in your company to where if you're a business owner, you can remove yourself, you can go fishing, you can trust your team, you guys are running autonomously. The direct success of your company doesn't depend on you as an owner, right? You can actually build a business and not just be a paid position at your company. That is the true difference. We are trying to get you to build a business and help you do that instead of just being a paid position at your company. And you're like, man, I'm still working 12 hours. I got to still run leads. I got to do this. I got to manage the sales team. I got to go out and sell. I got to answer phones. I got to do all of that stuff, right? Burnout is a real thing, and you could only do that for so long. And I promise you, you're going to show up every single day with less and less joy and more stress if you don't put something like this in place and have a system that your team can follow. Okay. So, anyone else? Any questions? Anything like that? I'm happy to answer before we jump off. If not, thank you guys so much for coming. You'll get the resources that you downloaded or requested. Thanks, Rod. Appreciate it. Um, but yeah, if there's no other questions or comments, you guys have a great rest of the day. Enjoy the rest of the week. Finish the month strong, and go out there and help some prospect and some homeowners. Be a change agent in your market. All right. Thank you guys so much. God bless.